Welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charney, James the Fat Man Stevens, and one of the madmen behind the Masters of Unlocking from Austin, Texas, Matt Brewer.
Hey.
So has anybody read any of the reviews for Cats, the movie musical, or whatever it is?
Nope.
Yeah, actually, I blew through the subreddit earlier tonight.
So I didn't go through the subreddit. I actually should have. That would have been great. So here's some of the reviews, because some of the reviews I've heard are some of the best negative reviews in history. Let's see. Here's one. See, from Robbie Collin. Glad to report that Cats is everything you'd hoped for and more. A mesmerizing, ugly fiasco that makes you feel like your brain is being eaten alive by a parasite. A viewing experience so stressful that it's honestly brought on a migraine.
Wow.
There's another one from Janelle Riley. Cats is pure nightmare fuel. The rejects from Island of Dr. Moreau. Hold on. I can't get past this last part. The rejects from the Island of Dr. Moreau putting on a show is bad enough, but add to that more crotch shots in a Michael Bay movie and imaginable pun that still won't prepare you for the hellscape that is this children that is children's faces CG led onto mice.
No.
All right. I heard a radio show that I listened to in the mornings talk about it, and I almost crashed because it's the Dr. Moreau one, by the way, is one I've actually heard a couple of times being compared to. And have either of you actually ever seen the musical?
No,
I've seen parts of it.
I'm trying to think of a nice way to say. I think Andrew Lloyd Webber's kind of a hack.
So I love theater. And so anytime I get a chance to see something that's allegedly famous, I want to see it. So I got to see it over in London in a theater designed to it. And I actually fell asleep halfway through the fucking thing. I'm not a big fan of musicals. I've known people who love musicals. For some reason, if it's slow in a musical, I'm going to pass out. However, if Sepultura ever does a musical, I'll be the first person to see it. Here's another one. First off, full disclosure, I'm not a cat person. Second off, after watching this frankly mortifying film adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats, I'm not altogether sure I'm a movie person anymore either.
That's a good one. I think my favorite one might be Cats is the worst thing to happen to cats since dogs.
Oh, here's one from David Pogue. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. This is what death feels like. This is the worst ketamine trip. This is the CGI from the Scorpion King, and the reviews from Cats, the movie, are out.
Wow. All right.
The fact he compared it to a ketamine trip is hilarious.
Yeah. I've never done it, so I'm not sure how that really is, but you know.
I've seen people talk about it on TV.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering what's going to get worse reviews, this or the new Star Wars movie. Because I've seen some reviews of Star Wars, and some are favorable, some are, stay home and do whatever.
Knit a Yoda.
Yeah, I mean, I still need to see The Mandalorian, but any of you guys want to see the new Star Wars?
Kinda. I'll watch it no matter what. I'll eventually watch it, of course, but
yeah, I still haven't seen Rogue One. That's the first one I want to see.
That one's okay.
You should really do that.
I'm so behind on my films. My list is growing longer and longer by the moment.
Well, he is in love with Forrest Whitaker, so yeah. There's that. You'll enjoy it, right?
Oh, I did hear, whether you care or not, it's up to you. I did see a review in giant letters. First same-sex kiss in a Star Wars movie.
All right.
And that was actually the title of the article. And I'm like, you could have just said Star Wars breaks new blah, 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 Star Wars reviews. I thought that was a hilarious way to get clicks, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That made me laugh just because I thought it was hilarious. I do want to talk about the elephant in the room, and by elephant, I actually mean our president. This is going to be a small conversation, or stillborn, is the third president was impeached in the United States, being President Trump. Like him or hate him, it's interesting to hear that, another president got impeached. I don't really want to go on the conversation because, to be honest, it's a K-hole of a conversation. It's a never-ending.
Well, he did tell him to just impeach him already.
This is true. They did what he said.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's all for it, apparently.
By the way, if you guys ever want to see something hilarious or maddening, depending on what aisle of the fence you're in, go look up Trump rally videos because they're hilarious and scary at the same time.
Now, are these pro-Trump or anti-Trump?
They're all pro-Trump because Trump's style of speaking drives me nuts because he talks in threes.
Yeah.
But his rallies are amazing because there's he just had one in Battle Creek, Michigan, and he was calling Hillary stuff and this person's stuff. It's fascinating to listen to.
I don't know if fascinating is a good word for it.
Well, I mean, fascinating you can use for a lot of things. Scientifically, it's fascinating how this works. That's kind of the way I'm taking it, is how, I'm not comparing the two, but it's fascinating how Hitler came up to power, and then how Trump is doing, how Barack Obama. So that thing I find fascinating. And there's actually the comparable one I could think about is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs they called the reality distortion field. And it's interesting to see how things go in his orbit. Like Vince McMahon from WWE, everybody says he has the ability to do what they call the Jedi mind trick. Is you could go there pissed off, and somehow not only will he convince you that the idea you're pissed off is a great idea, it'll actually be better for your career in the long run. I've heard a lot of people talk about how he has an amazing ability to do reverse psychology. So I think Trump's fascinating, honestly.
Just because
you're
of his
using
speech?
the Spock context.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just in general, how do you, and thank you. I don't know. Politics is interesting. Like, once you stop kind of caring, it's a little easier to be on the outside and just see the nuttiness of it.
I get you.
Because politics is nutty.
Yeah.
I think Reagan called it the world's second oldest profession.
He should have said first. It would have been funnier.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. Only one you actually get what you pay for.
I was going to say, I think hookers are more honest.
Yeah?
I think between a hooker and a politician, I know who I would believe.
Yeah.
So what do you think about getting surgery done by a robot?
What type of surgery?
They don't really go into it, but
is it
Toyota has created a robot that you can pilot, basically.
So is it like, because they've been surgeries like that where like they've had robotic assisted, like the doctors controlling it.
Full-on suit, like a full-fledged robot,
like an exoskeleton.
It doesn't go over you. You sit in a different chair and you pilot it from that chair.
And
that's supposed to be able to. What they're really thinking about doing is having it be so that doctors who can't be, around the world all over the place, they can still be able to perform a surgery via the robot.
So besides the fact it kind of freaks me out if like I'm in a power surge and I'm in the middle of having, my putts worked on, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, because in theory it won't fatigue. There's probably a little bit more fine motor control, I would have to see how it actually works. What are the backups and redundancies? Is it hackable?
I don't know.
Because that kind of scares me.
Yeah. That would be a pretty scary thing.
It doesn't actually bother me, though. I mean, I think it's fascinating because haven't they had like telecommunication or what do they call it, that surgery like that for a while?
But it's not so much this whole thing where it's as detailed and supposedly as precise as that. I don't know.
Because that looks like they're having VR goggles.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I'm curious to see how well it actually works.
I am too. I don't know if I'd want the robot to do that, basically wirelessly with a doctor not in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be nurses and anesthesiologists and things like that in the room, but they're not necessarily saying that it's going to be a hands-on doctor.
There's got to be one in the room, though.
You'd think so. You'd hope so.
There has to be, because I don't see them not allowing that, because I bet it would be, I could see, okay, the surgeon's controlling it via remote control, but there's a general doctor there just in case something happens, because otherwise I don't see them allowing that.
Yeah.
Because there's too many things that could go wrong.
You'd have redundancy. You'd have another surgeon in there. I mean, I can tell you firsthand, I wouldn't want a robot doing what was done to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on it. I mean, it's interesting and pretty fascinating that they're willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta admit, it kind of ooks me out a little bit, because it has the, maybe I've seen too many bad sci-fi movies. I'll be honest, most of my technology fears comes from the fact I'm a sci-fi fan, and usually sci-fi fans, bad thing happens.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm thinking, like, that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. And you saying, what if it gets hacked? That's a really good.
So, because I guarantee if that's the case, then no presidents will ever be allowed to have that. Oh, and as ridiculous as it sounds, Frank Sinatra's birthday was last week. One of my all-time favorite singers and one of the most fascinating guys in history. For me, especially during that time period, because, they always said he was in the mob. He helped Kennedy get elected. Very interesting man. A man I've heard rumors of that you never truly wanted to cross, because you may end up swimming with the fishes, or like a particular movie, end up with a horse's head in your bed.
Yeah.
And I've also heard Have It My Way in the Philippines is banned from being sung in karaoke because it has a tendency to start fights.
That's kind of random.
Yeah, I want to ask somebody who's Filipino and ask why, because I've heard it from multiple locations and read it in different places over the years, and it's just like, what is it about that song that makes you want to just shank somebody?
That's a good question.
Because it's not my favorite Sinatra song, realistically. It's a good song. I mean, I'm a bigger fan of, was it Nancy and the Laughing Face, or, it's Witchcraft. Have It My Way. Not my favorite one.
It might get people angry, because if memory serves, if you say to a really big Sinatra fan that he didn't write that song, they get mad. I might be thinking of the wrong song, though.
I would say, or would people get really that pissed? But yeah, I know music fans that would get mad at minutia like that. So I could see that. Yeah, I could see that, considering I know Queen fans will get mad at you for saying Radio Gaga's not a good song, or Bicycle's a horrible song, which it is.
Obviously, you're correct on both accounts, but
I actually like Radio Gaga, but mainly just because I think it's a fun song versus being a good song. God, what was it? There was another thing I just saw, and unfortunately, I am having a hard time seeing it. So, have you seen any good movies recently, Matt?
Oh, actually, the last movie that I saw in theaters, I went and saw Midway, actually.
Yeah,
and it was really good.
I've heard Midway is really good.
Honestly, it had no right to be as good as it was, but it surprised the hell out of me when I saw Roland Emmerich's name as the director, and I had no idea, and I'm just like, what? And I thought it was really, really well done. It was almost like kind of Tora.
Okay. Interesting. So here, if my iPad decides to work right, it's starring Ed Skrein, Skrein, Patrick Wilson, Woody Harrelson. Oh, wow. He plays Nimitz. I didn't know. Luke Evans, Mandy Moore, Dennis Quaid, Aaron Eckhart, who you haven't, after that Battle Los Angeles, you haven't really seen a whole lot of.
I didn't want to bother.
He plays Doolittle. in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh. So does
Yeah.
does this about Midway Island?
Yeah, it's about the battle of Midway. It just kind of goes from, I mean, it gives you a little bit of exposition, and then Pearl Harbor happens, and then it's basically the whole preparation up to the Battle of Midway.
Now,
And the Battle of Midway happens. It's really good.
For both sides, or just the American sides?
Mostly the American side, but it does show stuff that happens with the Japanese.
So Midway, this would have the Enterprise, CVNs. Yeah. Ooh. I actually want to see it now because the Enterprise is one of my favorite carriers in history. If random trivia, CVN 6, the Enterprise is one of the very first night carriers. They have there's a special about it. Came out years ago. I don't remember what it was called, but it talks specifically about the Enterprise. It's because at one point in time, it was the only carrier in the Pacific Theater that was mobile. It was pretty amazing. They used to call it the Lucky E.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
haven't seen it in a while.
I want to see this.
Yeah, that's on my list to see. I just haven't gotten around to it.
The only problem with having less free time is actually not being able to watch much stuff as I want to, because I still want to see The Mandalorian, but I have not had a moment to actually where I could stay awake and watch it.
It's actually a really good show.
It's fantastic. Sergio Leone does Star Wars essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm looking at IMDb and I'm looking at some of the ratings they give something. Leon the Professional only has an 8.5 rating. That kind of surprises me.
Yeah, that is pretty surprising.
Where would you put that?
It's not my favorite film, but I thought it deserves at least a 9 because I thought it's a really well put together movie. The plot's fairly straightforward, but it's not lackadaisical or lazy. Has fairly fleshed out main characters, and some of the peripheral characters I think are a little bit more fleshed out than than a movie. But granted, that's also the style of movie they made back in the day. I think one of the things movies have a lack of is quality storytelling in some ways. Because I think what they do, in my opinion, is they rely on kind of like the Marvel style. It's either pre-baked knowledge or they give you just enough and that's it.
Yeah.
A movie I actually really liked and I thought they did an okay job of giving you a story was, did you ever see Fury?
No, actually, I hadn't gotten around to that one.
Me neither.
I actually liked the movie. They gave you little bits, and for a war movie, they give you enough information that you can kind of like the characters. I thought they could do a little bit more, but I thought they did a good job of showing like the hectic of battle and like, the tanks your home, etc. I thought that was pretty good. That got a 7.6 rating, which I actually think is fairly well deserved. Okay, Snatch got an 8.3. Come on, it deserves a little bit higher.
So you're just going to go through and just be naming off movies after we've done this for so long?
Yeah, come on,
Dude, I really don't have any. The topics I had were for Ryan. So, so that's kind of what had. We're just to shit on Ryan for a little bit.
Well, you can still crap on the bastard of Baker Street. He just won't hear you. And he won't listen either.
No, he won't.
So I'm deciding whether I want to talk more politics stuff. Usually we don't. So I don't know if you want to talk politics or video games. I'm giving you guys the choice.
I'm done with politics.
So video games.
Say either video. Because that reminded me of this. I ended up springing for HBO and I watched They Shall Not Grow Old. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
No.
Or heard of it.
I have,
Sounds familiar.
If you want to see something, I won't call it a war movie. It's very much a documentary, but it's pretty striking. And
this is the Peter Jackson movie.
Yeah,
that's on HBO.
Yeah, it's on HBO right now. Yeah.
Fuck me sideways. I've been waiting to see this movie. I didn't know it was out already.
Yeah, I was kind of sitting there. I was up at my folks' house for Thanksgiving, and we're just going through stuff, like seeing what's there, and it just popped up, and I'm like, we're watching this, and we're going to get really depressed because of World War One, and we watched it. We didn't get depressed. It was just really like a lot of just that kind of real somber, the war.
I think one of the benefits about time, I mean, granted, we're about time for this movie, especially World War One, is it's so far out from any of our experiences. This sounds strange, but we're close to World War Two, far as the way they lived their lives in World War One. World War One, there was still the cavalry with legitimate horses. It was the first real the Maxim machine gun was the first machine gun really used in modern warfare. I'm excluding the Gatling gun, yada, yada. You guys can go argue about that. So I can see this being a good movie because it's really hard, I think, to put yourself in that place when compared to World War II.
Yeah.
Especially because in the fact I've met one or two World War I vets in my whole life. I've met quite a number of World War II vets from all stages of the war.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were old when we were being born. So,
but I mean, if you think, this is when, like, you compare World War II versus World War I. World War I, they had biplanes. Yeah. And so they weren't necessarily, they didn't start out being used for combat. Then they dropped bombs off, like hand grenades and bombs. And then eventually they had how to actually shoot machine guns without blowing off the propeller. Versus World War II, when later on you had some of the greatest fighter planes in history.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting, like the technological revolution that happened.
I mean, even when you look at World War One, in 1914 we started with horses. In 1918 we finished with tanks. So, it's crazy. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm. If you can say you're big on, I hate saying it because it sounds weird, but I love that history in that time period of World War I, World War II, and the things that happened. World War II, the thing about, for me, I didn't really know up until I watched the documentary and I've read a little bit more of it, was what happened in Britain. Because you always hear, at least being on this side of the pond, about how little or how much it affected people. In England, it was the entire island from, like the ag, all the farms were controlled, how much you had to produce to the government. If you didn't produce a certain amount of food, they'd actually confiscate your farm and give it to somebody else. To what the women would do. I mean, they had it's a women's organization. I don't remember the name, but the WPI, something like that. And you had all these women, since the men were fighting, start working farms, and it's super interesting to see what happened in England in that during that time period.
Yeah.
And especially in the countryside, because what you do hear from is a lot of stuff that happened in London. You see pictures of people being pulled out from rubble and etc. And you hear Churchill speeches, but you never really hear a whole lot what happened to the country. And they had like secret organizations that would sign people up, and you would be doing missions in the island. So on this particular TV show, it's a British TV show. It's, God, what is it called? I don't remember at the moment, but basically what they did is they would sign you up. And so if they knew there was going to be a raid, they would try to fake the Nazis out by planning fires and doing other things. So it makes it look like the city was in another direction. So trying to do subterfuge. And according to the TV show I watched, they, husband and wife could be involved in this, and they never knew. They refused to tell anybody. Mm-hmm. So it's super interesting.
Well, they were worried about a lot of spies in Britain at that time. That's actually when MI5 became really popular. Was they were recruiting people to go out and try to find out who's who and who's spying, and it was all about tailing certain people. And yeah,
that's true. I mean, I think it's. I couldn't imagine being alive during that time period. It's So that if you guys give me a second, I actually have that show I was talking about. If my computer decides to, it's Wartime Farm. It was made in 2012. It's 2012. It's super interesting. So basically, these three people who are historians. I think two are archaeologists. One's a female historian, like what women would do through history. And it's super fascinating. So they live there. So allegedly they lived there like a year in a farm and what they had to do. And they would talk about the steps involved. It was super interesting.
Huh.
So if you guys find it, it's on YouTube. At least it used to be. I don't know if you'll still be able to find it or not, but check it out. I love the living history style of doing things. And I like the way BBC does, because BBC does stuff. It doesn't seem to be as much drama, because if it was an American thing, it would be way too much drama.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but there's always a super lot of drama.
It sells.
This is true. I mean, this is why every movie, even good movies, always has the cover is usually some tight-shirted chick. Scarlett Johansson, for example. She's a good actress, but they wouldn't necessarily have to put her in all these skin-tight outfits if it didn't sell tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you guys interested in the fact the Black Widow's having her own backstory?
Nope.
No.
I want to see it. I'll rent it if that's a thing, just to see how they do it. Like, I haven't seen any of the last couple of Marvel movies, but that character, I'm kind of curious what they do with it. Like, what's the maturation process on it? Because I know what it is from the cartoons, so I'm curious in what direction they take it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see more Ant-Man.
I'm not interested in it at all. None whatsoever. I don't know. I'm really done with Marvel movies and all that crap.
I am curious when we're going to start getting more original content, or at least stuff that's not like from my childhood. I mean, if there's so many other movies and stuff they can repop, that they need to start doing stuff that's different. Like, I don't need another Terminator movie.
What if they do the real Ninja Turtles comic books where they actually kill people?
I don't see them doing that. I would be super curious. However, I would not be surprised if Howard the Duck comes back. By the way, the last Terminator Dark Fate, got a 6.5 out of 12 on the IMDb scale, which is higher than it deserves from everybody I know who's fucking seen it. I don't know. I'm trying to think, because like I'm a huge mark for like Three Musketeers, and the last one they made with Mila Djokovic and Orlando Bloom sucked. It was awful.
Yeah,
but I think that's because it's a Mila Djokovic movie. I think because she plays the same character in every role.
Yeah, I mean, I liked her back in the day.
Well, it was like M. Night Shyamalan. You liked him until you saw the first movie, and then now you're like, okay, now I can predict everything he does.
Well, that's not hard to do with him.
But on the other hand, maybe it's just like Stallone and Schwarzenegger. You just have to like the type of movie, because they're the same characters in every movie. Really?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
I mean, there's always... I don't know about Sylvester Stallone in particular, but Schwarzenegger had Kindergarten Cop, and that was a little bit different. He had Twins, which is a little bit different. Isn't the atypical Schwarzenegger movie?
Yeah, that's true.
Stallone, I guess you could take out, if you look at his career, the Rocky, the first three are really different than some of the movies you got from him, because a lot of his movies are action movies.
Well, you could also do the Cannonball. Oh, is that the one he was in?
He was in Death Race 2000.
Oh, that's it, Death Race. Show. That's what I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
Oh, was in the original one?
Yeah.
Yeah, with David Carradine.
Yeah, that was something different for him.
Whoa. Oh, that's right. He also starred in a porn.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know why I know that, but it's one of those things that for some reason I remember.
No, I remember him doing that in an interview, talking about it.
So do you think they dubbed his talking in there like they did to Schwarzenegger in Hercules, New York?
They probably didn't let him talk.
Hopefully. Adrian.
Yeah. I still have yet to see Creed, and I have no interest.
I saw parts of it. I saw probably half of it, and it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. And at this point in time, that's pretty high praise. Because I really want to see personally how Rocky plays out as an old guy. I want him to do a Rocky movie without boxing. That's the part that'd be interesting, is revolving that from the outside. Because in the Creed movies, he's basically helping Apollo Creed's son become a boxer.
Yeah.
I want to see it sans that. Like same thing with Rambo. Like, you see the Rambo at the end of his days without the typical atypical shtick. I want to see that. I want to see the day-to-day experiences. Him, the fighter living out the rest of his days. And I think that would be
you want to
interesting.
see him making his own Claymore?
Sure. Well, like for the Rambo movies, my idea for the last Rambo movie would be, excuse me, him and some sort of family member, and you have him as kind of a frail old man or whatever, and he's at the end of his life, and he has to come to grips of what he's done in his life. It's kind of like Johnny Cash's Hurt. It's, Johnny Cash, if you watch the actual music video, it's Johnny Cash. The music video is basically a story of his life. I want to see that with the drama and the PTSD and the coming to grips with who he is. And I think that'd be a great, compelling story.
Watch Logan. That's
Yes.
what you're going to get.
See, I would love that with the Rambo character.
I did like Logan. Logan was a good movie.
I really liked Logan. I haven't watched it, and I really want to see, was it the New Mutants who comes after with X-23?
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see how they play that off. And I'd like to see, I think Rambo would be a more compelling story, but I'd still like to see Rocky at the end of his days, because I think it'd be an interesting story. If you had the right director and the right story, I think it would be good. But you've kind of gotten that story along with the last Rocky movie when Adrian died and you saw him at the grave. You got that in Apollo Creed, where he gets, by the way, spoiler alert, he gets cancer and he gives up, and then Apollo Creed's son is like, oh, I need you, man, So you did get, yeah, you did kind of get some of it, but not enough for me. Have any of you guys seen Hacksaw Ridge?
No, not yet.
Mm-mm.
Man, it's another movie I want to see. It's with Andrew Garfield. I've seen clips of it. It looks an absolutely badass movie.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing it. I just haven't seen it yet.
I'm trying to think of other movies I'd like to see.
I'm super stoked for Christopher Nolan's next movie. They just released a trailer for that today.
I heard about that. What exactly is it? Is it a sci-fi movie?
It basically, from what it looks like to me, is that it's what was it? It's It's Inception meets something else. All I said, the way that I described it when I talked to a coworker of mine about it, is I don't know what it's about, but I'm definitely going to be injecting it into my eyeballs. Is it
Tenet?
Oh, it looks like okay, so it's like this. It looks like Inception, but instead of it being a heist movie, it's a spy movie.
So Tenet 2020. This is by IMDb, by the way. It says the plot is currently unknown. The project is described as an epic action revolving around international espionage, time travel, and evolution. So it could be either really good or Time Cop.
I mean, I'd like to see Time Cop get remade.
So Aaron Tyler Johnson, not familiar with. Robert Pattinson. I'm kind of curious to just watch him do a good movie. Isn't he the new Batman too?
He is.
So I'm looking forward to seeing. Oh, Michael Caine. There's some decent actors in this movie. I'm actually curious to see how this does. I definitely won't see it in theaters until because I haven't seen the trailer, but I am super curious how this does, because his movies usually do really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he hasn't done anything since Dunkirk. So
this is another movie I want to see. Did you see
I saw Dunkirk. Dunkirk's good.
Have you seen it, Matt? Hello?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Have you seen Dunkirk?
Yeah. I own it. Yeah.
Man, I must be the only person who hasn't seen it. So we talked about the new Ghostbusters trailer last week, and I want to know what you thought of it.
The only reason why I didn't make an audible noise is because I was in my office at work. I'm call it rose tinted glasses, or whatever, what have you. I'm very excited for it, and I'm really glad to see how they're tying it all together, because there's so many little things in that trailer. It's just like, oh, they're gonna do this right, I hope.
Yeah.
So I guess the question I have for you, because we talked about it last week and I've had some time to think about this. It seems like it's Ghostbusters meets Goonies.
I'm fine with that. You just get Stranger Things.
I'm so irritated at Bill Murray because he's such a dick in real life. We could have this could be Ghostbusters 4 instead of Ghostbusters 3. If you guys aren't familiar with how big of a dick he is, look up what he did to Harold Ramis during Groundhog Day. Bill Murray's famous for not being particularly easy to work with. He hired a deaf mute just so he could piss off the director, which, by the way, was one of his best friends. And after that, they from what I've heard, they never said anything ever again. I mean, they might have done towards the end of Harold's life.
Maybe. Yeah.
I want to see it. That's actually one of the movies. If Life and Time revolve, it actually makes it. I'd love to see it opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I almost peed myself just because how excited the trailer, because I was noticing all these little things from all the movies, and they're going to show a bunch of little stuff as time goes on.
Okay, so I put this out to John last week. He didn't like it. He was very upset by it. But my belief is that they're out there and what's going on is the containment unit is failing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the glowing and earthquakes is all about. Now, John said he's going to be very upset if that's actually the main plot.
So there is something that I actually watched a breakdown of this trailer that I never caught. The Shandor Mine.
I was going to say the Shandor Mines. Yeah.
So the Shandor Mine was the same guy who built the original building that Dana was in.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Really?
Yeah. So so after thinking about it, I think that's going to be, and I kind of agree with the guy who did the trailer breakdown. It's probably going to be revolving around the Shandor people.
Okay. That could be it.
I mean, yeah, but I'm over here like, why not both?
I'm thinking it's either that. I'm pretty sure there's going to have to be something going on with that as well. So
I don't see it being that, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I really just want the longer trailer, to be honest, because I waited for months to see the trailer from the picture. And I also think that's maybe why Egon moved to that little town too. Because he seems to be the type of guy, the character itself seems to be the type of guy that would be less interested in monetary gain versus scientific gain. And so I could see him moving to that town because that's where Shandor was from and the mine and etc. So I have a feeling that's going to play into it a little bit.
All right. I don't know. We'll see.
I gotta say, it's really small, but it was one of my favorite little like what moments in the trailer. Is for life, I don't know the character's name, but the girl, Egon's granddaughter, the way her hair is styled is the same way Egon's hair was styled in the real Ghostbusters cartoon.
Oh crap! I haven't watched that in forever.
I haven't either.
Yeah, that's the kind of nerd I am.
Talk about the real Ghostbusters. I loved that as a kid. And there's one episode there's two episodes actually that I remember almost verbatim. There's an episode with a haunted house that at the end of the cartoon, Ghostbusters shrank and put into a snow globe. And it's still haunted because they had it, like one of the Ghostbusters was actually looking at it. And there's the other episode there's like the Pumpkin King. That's like what I remember. And Slimer gets sucked into it. And then they were trying to retrieve Slimer. That was a great cartoon.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't watched any of it in a long time.
And I remember as a kid, it was surprisingly freaky. Like, because the cartoons aren't, the movies aren't particularly, even though they're PG, they're not particularly kid-friendly.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
And so I was reflecting back on it. I was always surprised I was allowed to watch that. The cartoon as a kid.
Yeah. So, have you seen The Irishman, Matt?
No.
Good.
That's what I've been told so many times.
So, all right.
Yeah.
That's about all I have to say. I'm waiting on Ryan, who's supposed to have watched it, 2 weeks ago? Because he was all excited because he's got his nose up Scorsese's ass. So
For a guy who's not married and doesn't have kids, he surprisingly doesn't have time to do shit.
no, that's because people keep dying on him.
I'm always surprised. Have you done this? No, I've been too busy. What? How? I mean, what the fuck are you doing, dude? If I wasn't married or have a kid, I would have been, I would have seen every movie that was out in theaters by now.
He plays a lot of video games too.
He must play a ton of video games, but I do both at the same time. But I guess not many people are as ADD as I am.
No, not really. Yeah, but what I said about the Irishman is it's Goodfellas with liver spots. So that's about all I can say.
Goodfellas.
That's hilarious, by the way.
Oh, I can't wait to say it to Ryan after he watches it.
He won't listen to this. I seriously I can't wait to hear his reaction.
Oh, I got a lot to say about that movie. Yeah. Oh God. It's just, I just don't get people in Scorsese. I really don't.
That's hilarious.
I mean, if it's any consolation, I saw Taxi Driver once, and I was just like, that movie was garbage.
See, I don't know how he had a career after that movie.
I'm impressed you got through it. I watched 20 minutes and stopped.
It's not good. I think people like it because it's just, it's cool to like Taxi Driver.
Now, okay, the thing I always say is this. The most famous line in that movie, "Are you looking at me?"
Uh-huh.
That was all ad-lib by Robert De Niro. That was not in the script. So the most famous part of that movie had nothing to do with Scorsese.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, okay, well, there you go. The whole thing is shit.
Yeah. I mentioned this, just like, why watch Taxi Driver when you can watch Serpico? Because Serpico is a way better film. It's different, but it's a way better film just in general.
I just could not get through Taxi Driver. I've tried a couple of times, and it's just boring. And it's not innovative boring. Like 2001 is legitimately dull at times, and I've fallen asleep. I'd rather watch that versus Taxi Driver. Because I also don't feel creeped out by watching it because this dude's trying to fuck a little girl.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, that bothers me a lot. When I first saw it, I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
The new Ip Man movie looks interesting.
Ip Man, yeah.
Ip Man 4, 2019. Donnie Yen, Scott Adkin, and Danny Chan as Bruce Lee. I don't know. I'm hoping for better movies to come out. I haven't seen a whole lot of movies lately that come out in the theaters look super interesting to me.
You should just sit down and watch The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
I've seen a good portion of it actually through clips on YouTube.
See, but that's not watching the movie.
That's true.
Yeah. No, I was a good little find. I enjoyed that. But
I'm trying to find, because I'm trying to find live action movies that I dig. But right now, I haven't found a whole lot that I like. I've been on this giant kick of anime because the stories have been less convoluted. I mean, it's not like I have a hard time following stories in Hollywood movies. Like the one I remember is everybody was complaining how complicated Looper was.
That was not
like I remember reading huge articles and people on Reddit going, "It's so complicated." It's like, it's not that hard to follow.
Yeah,
I didn't think so.
And it always surprised me because I'm like, how is it hard to follow? I mean, maybe it's just because I've watched a lot of time travel movies, or I get the idea of it, or I watched Back to the Future a couple of times.
Yeah.
Oh, I did want to mention, and my apologies, I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy who played Odo on Deep Space Nine passed away.
Oh.
Renee, super French last name. Yeah,
yes.
He actually played in one of my favorite video game series ever too.
Which one was that?
The Legacy of Kain series.
Don't know that one.
Yeah, it's speaking of time travel, it's a super talk about hard to follow. It's 5 games that take place over a period of 1,500 years, back and forth in time, and it deals with 2 vampires. One drinks blood, the other consumes souls, and it's both of their stories converging into one by the end of the series.
Huh.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Let's see. Hold on. I'm bringing it up because on Wikipedia, the bastion of all semi-good knowledge.
Yeah.
The Legacy of Kain is a series of action-adventure video games primarily developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix, formerly Eidos. Oh, so that's what became of Eidos Interactive. No wonder they actually have one of my favorite franchises of all time, Deus Ex, if anybody's wondering. Now,
yeah.
What was the...
Funny that... Oh, go ahead.
What I was going to say, was this fixed camera? Or is it like...
So the very first one was a kind of a top-down action RPG, but after that it was behind the character third person.
But it wasn't fixed third person. You could revolve around the character.
Yeah. You could use the thumbstick to move everything around.
Oh, that's awesome. So what were you going to say about Deus Ex?
Oh, I was going to say I've got a really good buddy of mine did the music for the first one.
Well, if you ever talk to him, tell him that I'm a giant mark for the first game. I loved it. It's that whole series has been one of my all-time favorite video games. Pretty much any game of all time besides maybe Halo, just for the amount of enjoyment I've gotten out of it.
Yeah, Deus Ex is fantastic. He's a super cool dude, but yeah, we live like 10 minutes apart, so. Every once in a while we'll chat. And the one time I was like, talk to him, I'm like, hey dude, we're friends now, but I have to gush. And I did. And he was just like, what? He's like crazy humble too. It's insane.
That's awesome. Man, I still have I have what I jokingly call my archive, which is basically every video game I've ever played on PC. I've sold some Xbox games. I actually have the original disc somewhere. I'll have to actually find it, because I wonder if I could play it.
Probably.
I might need to find, was it DOSBox? There's some emulation I need. Man, that game was so amazing. And it was kind of, to me, it was revolutionary as far as gameplay came, because this is the first time that I remember like physical augmentation being shown in a video game where it actually add to the playability. It wasn't like some video games, this guy would have was it Bionic Commando? He'd have a bionic arm, and that was it. This was the first game I remember that you could select what you want. You could turn it off and on, and it was reasons in the story, and it was really well done.
Yeah.
I really loved the shit out of the Snowblind weapons, though.
Yeah, Snowblind was awesome.
Yeah, I wish they had done more of that one.
Yeah, I really can't wait for, what was it? It was Human Revolution, and there was the one after that took place beforehand. The newer ones I actually really enjoy, because instead of being the nanite augmentations, they're physical augmentations. So you have this guy's like without any arms, and he got robotic arms, and you have like a katana that pops out of his hands, and it's really well done.
Yeah. Yeah, but I love the nanite gun, though.
Oh,
yeah.
Disassemble everything.
But God, you want to talk about games I want to see a new version of? It was Hexen and Heretic.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely.
Finally, somebody who knows what the hell I'm talking about. Those were 2 amazing games that were very dark if you paid attention to the story.
Yeah.
God, that was so fun. There's been some amazing video games they haven't touched. Like, I'm still waiting for another Wing Commander game.
Oh, man, I think Wing Commander 4 was the last one that they did.
I have Wing
Commander. Well, I mean, shoot, the guy who did Wing Commander, he's doing Star Citizen, but that's probably never going to come out.
Well, I think there were 7. I've got I've got one. It's like 6 or 7 CD-ROM discs, but it's a DOS game. And this was in the time period where they were a big fan of live action interaction in TV in video games. So they would be like cut scenes with Mark Hamill. Mm-hmm. And I think Gary Busey's son is in the movie. I think he plays Matthew Lillard's character in the movie, in the Wing Commander movie, and I can't remember. Oh, Todd Maniac Marshall. I think that's who Gary Busey's son plays.
Huh.
If I'm not mistaken. I don't know how I remember that.
I have no idea.
Man, Wing Commander was such an amazing game for the time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I need to go back and play them. It's been quite a while. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What's the next big one? Cyberpunk 2077. That's the main one
That's
on my radar right now.
That's the next one. I was so pissed because it was supposed to come out, I think, this November, and I was excited and I was going to get it, and I looked at getting pre-ordering it, and turns out it got pushed to April, and I was so pissed because I'm excited. I love the cyberpunk kind of techno universe. It's very similar. If you watched any 80s anime, say Cyber City Odo, stuff like that, it's ODO, if I remember correctly, or ODEO. Or it has that cyberpunk sensibility to it. And it's such a fun universe to play in when you have those things. Same reason why I like, Deus Ex, is you have the same kind of sensibility and universe and the issues that revolve around that.
Mm-hmm, yeah. My buddies and I, we played the pen and paper game, Cyberpunk 2027. And the amount of customization you could do for your character, if you had the money to do it, you could do it. But the problem is that you had humanity points, and the more physical, like noticeable augmentations you had, the less humanity points you had. And if you got to 0, you had to re-roll a new character because you weren't human anymore.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, oddly enough, reminds me of another 80s anime, 80 Police Files. Excuse me. It takes place in the same universe that Bubblegum Crisis takes place in.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is one of my all-time favorite animes too. The original and 2040. And so there's this one story in the 80 Police Files where this woman who got so many modifications to her body, she started being rampant. Like she was more boomer than human. Y'all, if you're out there, like look it up if you're even remotely into anime. 80s had some interesting anime that you really haven't, not only stylistic wise, but story wise, that they haven't really touched. Even since the first, Pat Labor, the first Pat Labor movie is a beautiful movie. All hand drawn, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Pat Labor 2, I mean, the first one's the great story. Second one's okay. Third one, you can give or take. I mean, I like it just because I'm a sucker for anime, and franchises. We are running short on time. I'm trying to remember any video games that I really want to see. Okay, question. And since we're running out of time, any video games you actually think Hollywood would legitimately be able to turn into a movie? Because I still think they could do Halo.
You got to get the right director for that. That's the key right there. You got to have somebody who can do the visual style. And if I was going to put my money to that, it'd be John Woo.
And do you think you could have Master Chief as the main character, or would he be a supporting character?
They probably turn him into a supporting character so they could tease a sequel.
Because my thought, and I actually recently saw this because I actually heard an interview with Kane, actually from WWE a while ago, and made me think about this, was basically in the interview, he talked about how since you couldn't see his face, he had to have his body make all the emotions. Mm-hmm. And after I heard that, you could easily do that with Master Chief with having body language tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think it would be better movie-wise if he was a supporting character other than the main character. Because I think you'd be able to make more stories versus all the Halo games besides the first one have been very repetitive.
Yeah, that's true. I think they should do the first one with Master Chief and then do kind of like how they actually did the game with ODST as well.
That would be badass. The first Halo novel, was it the first one? It's Fall of Reach. Talks about how he was created. But on the other hand, they did the same movie almost verbatim with Kurt Russell, and it didn't turn out too good. So I'm not sure if that'll work.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you actually see both the Kurt Russell movie and you read Fall of Reach, they're very similar on how they're got together.
So I've said this before. Go with it again. I still want a Splinter Cell with Sam Fisher.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Since they haven't made another game, I totally want a movie.
You know, like Chaos Theory or something like that.
So would you be okay with an anime? Or does it have to be live action? Because I could totally dig an anime.
I could do an anime if they want to do a bunch of his stories, like a season or two. But a movie, I think I'd prefer that to be live action.
See, if they did it like Marvel, like the Marvel animated movies, I could go for it as long as they got Michael Ironside to do the voice. Because I'm a huge mark for Michael Ironside.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. That another anime thing I'm thinking. I think if you're going to adapt a video game into an anime, I think a great one, if you can do the story right, would be Mega Man.
They've done a lot. Of course, a lot of it's kid stuff. So would this be kid or more adult oriented, or say teenager oriented? That would be able to get it right.
If it was me, so there's a band out of Nashville I really like called the Proto Men, and I'm kind of lifting the plot from them. Is their lead songwriter took the Mega Man lore and turned it from a side scroller jump and shoot to a cyberpunk dystopian rock opera kind of thing. Yeah, where Dr. Wily like runs the entire like society and all that, and Dr. Light is this dude who just lives by himself in a big building, and he's like working to create a machine that will liberate humanity from tyranny and all that. It's pretty sweet.
Interesting. So it's like Styx's rock opera, but Mega Man themed.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
The one issue I think Hollywood has with creating any sort of video game movie is I think they're just not fans. So it would have to be somebody who really loved it. I still think Peter Jackson could do like a Halo movie as long as he didn't rely on CG like the Hobbit movies, because I'm done with seeing the Technicolor rainbow.
Yeah.
Scorsese?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to think. I want one more game I'd love to see a movie. Actually, you know what I'd love to see is an Elder Scrolls movie.
I was thinking about that, but that's going to be a lot of work.
I don't see. Here's the thing. To me, there's so much lore. It doesn't really have to. I think you could have it in the universe and hint at things. And I still think it would be amazing. I don't necessarily want the story from the video games, but I think it would be easier to do that versus like Dragon Age, which is one of another favorite series of mine. But I'd love to see some sort of movie based on Elder Scrolls in that universe.
Yeah, there's certainly enough lore to pull from.
Yeah, there's a ton of games. Oh, by the way, whoever said Bethesda, make a new fucking video game that's not an online MMO, please. I love Elder Scrolls, but your MMO sucks.
I mean, the thing that I think they should do if they do throw in the Elder Scrolls for actual fans, they have to have Maik the Liar, the Khajiit guy. That was like in every single every single Elder Scrolls game.
And they have to have like the books, like that book with that naughty book with the lizard book. So they're gonna have. There's a lot of stuff I think you're gonna have to throw to the fans.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see it.
Maid or something
like
that. Yeah.
I'd love to see it just because I want something original, and at this point, I think it would be fun.
I always thought it was interesting that they actually did have writing in all the books. It was only like maybe 5 or 6 pages, but
that was a naughty book.
For a lot of books. I mean, that's a shit ton of books they put in those games.
This is true. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming up to the end of this amazing hour. So, Matt Brewer, any last statements, comments, or questions?
No. Don't be dicks to each other.
So you're basically Abraham Lincoln at the end of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Yeah, just with cursing, because that's a lot more fun.
So do you have any plugs?
I mean, you did mention my band. I'm in a video game music band here in Austin. We don't really have anything just yet. We're looking at recording an EP hopefully next year. And we have a show happening in January at a giant nerd convention in San Antonio.
Nice.
So if you're in San Antonio, come see us. We're going to play music.
Nerds unite.
Mm-hmm.
James?
Goodbye.
For Jonathan Charney, the California Pariah, you can't tell I'm tired. The California Pariah, James the Fat Man Stevens, and one of the madman behind the band Masters of Unlocking, as always, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.